She's an award-winning YouTuber and best-selling author obsessed with helping you go after the life you want.
I like it.
Join her as she seeks out the stories and strategies.
Give me every little detail.
Of extraordinary people who found success.
I'm going to get emotional. Oh my God.
Welcome to Detail Therapy with Amy Landino.
The ability to kind of grow a career, use speaking as a platform to build other businesses, other parts of your world is fascinating to me. So maybe that's what stresses me out the most is I just want to be successful for everyone. Like, I'm not working with people I don't believe in, and I think I want to be as successful as I can for these people. And, that'll mean success for myself, but ultimately, everyone else reaps the benefits, which is what's going to be so much fun about this.
Hey there, welcome to Detail Therapy. You just heard a snippet from my chat with Zach Nadler, CEO of VaynerSpeakers, a brand new speaking agency that just so happens to represent yours truly. More on that later. In this episode, you will hear Zach talk about what it's like to represent the likes of Andy Cohen, Lisa Vanderpump, and of course, Gary Vaynerchuk. What it means to do great work to represent some of the top talent in the world, and how his new venture, VaynerSpeakers, is ready to make a splash in the business speaking world. We have a lot to dig into with Zach today. But for those of you who are new to the show, my name is Amy Landino, and I will be your host. I'm a YouTube creator, professional speaker, best-selling author, and entrepreneur. And I'm here to help you go after the life that you want. You can find out more details about me by visiting youtube.com/AMYTV. I am so pumped about this. I've been hanging on to this episode. I wanted to wait until it was fully out there in the world and announced that VaynerSpeakers is 100% launched and that I have been asked to be a part of their inaugural class of speakers. I feel like we should have a background track of clapping because, oh my God, what is happening right now? I'm very excited about this. This is just truly a moment for me. And so to those of you who are listening to the show, if you've ever seen a video, if you've ever listened to a podcast, if you've ever sat in a seat and saw me speak, especially, you are a massive reason as to why this is happening, this milestone in my career. So thank you so much. I'm very excited about what's to come. And we're going to talk about that more when I sit down with Zach. I'm very excited to just talk about his career as a whole because, unfortunately, I am not the coolest client he's ever had. But we'll talk about that later. Just a quick reminder that I still need some more details about you. I know that I give you details on this show. Do I not? Have I not made good on that? Well, now I need some details from you. I need to know more about you so I can continue to make this show relevant, make the content right, make everything about it right. I know that you're still here. I know you're still listening. And I know you're like, oh man, I forgot to do that thing again. Well, I'm telling you now, amylandino.com/detail therapy survey. I will leave a link in the show notes. It's very quick. It's very simple. I just want to know more about you. So please share some details with me. Quick shout out to a reviewer of this podcast, Chelsea Bearden. She called her review encouraging and relatable, 5 stars. Oh my gosh, so cool. And here's what she said. I'm a fairly new follower of Amy and her content through YouTube and Detail Therapy. I love that her tips and advice are completely doable. That is always my goal. Chelsea, thank you so much for picking up what I'm putting down. I always want to bring something to you that you can do right now. And so that's why I'm trying to talk to people who are successful in their own way, find out what they can share with you here, and then give you those detailed recaps so you know what to do next. I don't like to waste a moment of time, and I'm certainly not here to waste yours. So Chelsea, thank you so much for your review. And if you would like to leave a review for a potential shout out on the show, just go to your favorite podcast player, find out where they take reviews, and leave one. I don't care how many stars you want to put. I don't care what you write. I need to know. I want the details. So pop in and get it done. Don't forget that everything we talk about here on the show will be on our show notes website, which is detailspodcast.com. So if you hear anything that Zach talks about that you would like to go check out or see some more information, you will need to go to detailspodcast.com, go to the episodes page, look for Zach's shining face along with mine. I'll be standing next to him. It should be pretty obvious because the name of the page will say Zach on it. All the details will be there. So check it out, detailspodcast.com. With that, let's get into my chat with my next guest. Today, I'm sitting down with Zach Nadler. After more than 9 years as the top performing agent in the speakers department at Creative Artists Agency, or CAA, Zach has partnered with his longtime client and the king of hustle himself, Gary Vaynerchuk, to form VaynerSpeakers, a new type of speaking agency for talent in the business world. Representing innovative speakers who have built impactful brands and a powerful message, the speaking industry is about to see a shakeup. Zach and I sat down in his office at VaynerX, and so let's pop over and see how he defines going after the life you want.
This is my first podcast.
Is it?
Yeah.
Zach Nadler, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me, why do you advocate for speakers?
I think, I've been doing this a long time, and I've also worked outside the speaking world with athletes, with celebrities, and I think it's important for people to have someone to advocate on their behalf. It's really tough to do a lot of things for yourself when you're negotiating on your behalf, when things get difficult or messy. So I've always been able to do that, and I enjoy being able to problem solve for people.
What excites you about the speaking world? Like, how did you end up in that specific arena? Do you think, why do we need you, essentially?
I think that there is an ability similar to that of advocation, of the sales process, of someone understanding from an outside perspective why someone and their story makes sense to be at an event. And people often get jaded by their own perspective on themselves. Just like when you look in a mirror, you see one thing that other people don't necessarily see. The same thing plays out in the speaking world.
So if people don't know, you're the CEO of VaynerSpeakers, which is basically a speaking agency that's been started by yourself and Gary Vaynerchuk. The two of you basically are partnering on this. Is that right?
That's correct.
I should be clear on that because, full disclosure, I am officially a Vayner speaker. That's what I'm calling myself. I don't really know how to say it. I am being represented. I don't know how to say it because this is new for me. So first and foremost, thanks for having me.
Thank you for signing with us. We are thrilled about this.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I mean, it's been kind of a crazy few months for you. Where are we? Like 4 months into this?
Not even.
Yeah.
So I left my previous agency late August. We launched VaynerSpeakers October 1. So where we sit today, it's about 2.5 months from then.
Yeah. And your former place of employment was CAA, which
Correct.
is a huge talent company. How long were you with them?
I was at CAA for a little over 9 years.
You were with the speaking department there, of course, as well. I feel like there was obviously a lot that happened there that led to where you are here. But let's kind of start with how you ended up at CAA. What was the chain of events that was happening in your life that you ended up there and working with speakers?
Wow, looking back 10 years. So I previously to CAA, I was representing Olympians. So around the Beijing Olympics, I had about 14 clients that competed in Beijing. I think they won about 22 or 23 gold medals. And to support their careers and training, if they're not working for Home Depot, they're not getting paid large sums by Olympic committees and USA Track and Field and USA Swimming. So they support themselves through speaking engagements, clinics, endorsements. And so I was doing a lot of this for younger athletes, as well as retired athletes. And so I just got more familiar in the speaking world. And I had actually brokered a number of deals with CAA for some of their clients, and that led to an opportunity where they were looking to grow their speakers department. And so back in 2009 when I started, there were only 2 agents in the department. So I came into the New York office. There were about 80 of us in the New York office. When I left, there were over 300. And we grew the speaking business tremendously, but it started all from my background in sports. And then by the time I left, I was barely doing any deals in the sports world, but it was something where it kind of was happenstance. I didn't grow up thinking I was going to be a speaker's agent.
Sure. But I mean, that comes from action. That's exciting, I think. And that's why I always ask people what their why is, not necessarily what their title is, because you have to know why you get up and do what you do every day. And I think that that's really interesting how that all came about. Let's talk about your time at CAA, who your clients were. Anybody of interest, since it is basically the biggest talent company in the world?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, what was interesting working there was that I worked with hundreds of people, maybe even thousands. And that was the part of the job I loved the most. Every day it was doing deals for different kinds of people.
Yeah.
So I was able to work with actors and athletes, musicians, writers, actresses, directors, politicians, entrepreneurs, chefs, pretty much anyone connected to any walk of life in entertainment. I had some sort of connection to working with someone in that world. So I've done everything from working with Pulitzer Prize-winning playwrights to, vice presidents of the United States to Academy Award-winning actors, and then certainly a lot of people that you may not be familiar with, authors and people of that world. So it's a fascinating world because everyone may have a story to tell, but not everyone wants to tell it. So in the speaking world, we try to find those individuals who really had that message to give out, right? That message to get on stage that could help an audience and impact them one way or another. At this point, by the time I left CAA, we're doing about 250 to 300 events a year with probably close to 200 different people. So it was quite a large number, and year to year, it was always changing who I would work with based on what was happening in pop culture, what was happening in the news and sports and all of these different arenas. So I've worked with so many people under the sun that it gets a little bit overwhelming.
Okay, last time I talked to you, you told me that one of your clients, or actually a plethora of your clients, were in the housewives world. So that's where I'm going with this. Can we dig into that a little bit? Who can you talk about?
Yeah, so certainly not an area that I knew a tremendous about going into.
Oh, that makes it so much more fun.
I worked very close with Andy Cohen.
Nice.
And obviously, his involvement in the Housewives as a producer, executive producer for years, and then having them on his show as well. But I worked with Andy for a number of years, worked with, I've worked with Bethany Frankel and Jill Zarin and Lisa Vanderpump, and I'm probably forgetting some, which is bad.
That's okay. Those are some good ones. I'm actually the most interested in Andy because I feel like he's one of those people that is doing a lot. And for him to go, hey, I also want to speak. I also would like to make time for that, or who's asking for an Andy to come in, or where do you see him on this,
working with Andy was phenomenal. And I got to say, it was something where it's fascinating when you may not be a fan of someone's work from a cultural standpoint, right? Like, I'm not particularly watching Watch What Happens Live or The Real Housewives, but I'm a fan of Andy's. He does not get enough credit for what he did in reality TV.
I agree completely.
Whether or not you like the shows, you can't ignore the fact that as, Survivor was on air and some of these first reality TV shows, some of which still exist, Andy was producing some content on Bravo that, everything from Top Chef and, Queer Eye for the Straight Guy in the original incarnation to all the Real Housewives from the first one to the many different versions. And he's always been involved in that. So it was really fun working with him because you got to see a little bit of who he was and why he did what he did.
Yeah.
But I give Andy a ton of credit. He's one of the hardest working guys. And he enjoys it more than anyone too.
I have to just resonate what you just said, because I think not just for the reality TV world did he kind of take it to another level. I think we saw a lot of the first versions of what reality TV looked like MTV had some stuff. But I even see so much inspiration in what they do with that content on Bravo in video editing today and content online today. And the fast-paced nature of that information. I think that's been a huge part of how it has shifted how we watch things.
And it's also, all these other reality programs have stolen ideas from them.
Absolutely.
And as they should, because it's worked tremendously. They know their audience super well. But what Bravo was 20 years ago, it's hilarious looking at it now because the network is completely different because they found something that worked for them. And I think Andy had a lot to do with that, going from, I think his title was SVP of Programming, to now doesn't do anything behind the scenes. He still EPs a lot of these shows, but is now more of a host and face of the network.
Yeah, it has been really cool to see him kind of get to that point where he was behind the scenes a lot, and now he's...
Well, and, working with him for so long, I met his parents a number of times, have seen him, off stage, if you will, and it's funny because he is the same person all the time. And it's great for him. I appreciate the fact that he's always been the same person. He knows what he likes, and he has just his finger on the pulse of pop culture, which allows him to not only produce great content on TV, he's also done tremendous work in books. He has his Sirius radio channel. So he is just so involved in so many different levels, but just understands the world of pop culture, which is something he did since he was a little kid.
Yeah.
So now it's, I applaud him for being able to kind of take that and grow a business around his passion.
Yeah, I appreciate you letting me nerd out over this. But let's actually talk about something that you
People
guys worked
love
on.
talking about Andy.
He is quite at the front of pop culture. I love everything about it. My husband knows every time he turns on the TV, Housewives is sitting there waiting for me to continue watching it. But let's talk about something you worked on with Andy. you are part of the reason why AC Squared, which is the tour Andy does with Anderson Cooper, which I totally didn't pick up on the AC thing until that tour came around. But yeah, you're kind of the reason, or at least part of the equation of why that ended up coming about. How did that end up coming about?
So it's a really long story, but to give you a short version, Andy and I had been working together on other events, and we had done an event that was a public event in a smaller venue that was kind of like a Watch What Happens Live locally, right? And it was a smaller event. They even had, a few bar seats on stage. And it was a really fun experience because Andy's not going to do anything if it's not fun.
Right.
And so Andy had done this event, and then we were talking about doing a larger version here in New York, and it was an idea that we had been talking about for a long time. There were incarnations of this for the last 10 years, some that I had no involvement in, where it was, Andy doing, an event with some of the housewives on stage at casinos and things like that. And for one reason or another, it never came together. Now, it's very difficult if you're not a comedian to carry a 2-hour program on stage. And so we had been talking about doing different formats and different things like this. And as a speaker, you probably are familiar with this. At a certain point, people just start to tune out.
Right.
So we had been talking about different formats and different ideas. And then Andy was interviewed by Anderson Cooper, his best friend, at the 92nd Street Y promoting one of his more recent books. And they did this interview. It went terrifically well. And Anderson's agent literally said to him, you guys should take the show on the road. And this was right at the same time where we were trying to put Andy on stage at another event. And so it was very serendipitous. We worked with a promoter and put together, one event that sold tremendously well in Boston. And from there, we launched a series of other events and kept that tour going. I believe they just wrapped their 4th year of the tour and going into their 5th year.
That's awesome.
And they've just revamped the whole show. It is, as someone who, again, I'm not a huge fan of their programming, but I respect their work, and they do an amazing job of making entertainment. So I've gotten a lot of tickets for my friends' wives who are huge fans of the Housewives or fans of Anderson Cooper.
That's why we're really here. Let's just get to it. No.
But the husbands come in and they laugh. And I've seen the show probably 40 to 50 times, and I laugh every time.
That's cool.
They have so much fun on stage because they know each other so well that they really know how to needle at one another.
Yeah.
But it's tremendous. I mean, they do a great job with that. I was really proud of all the work we did.
That's really cool because I feel like, because I have some questions for you about the speaking industry as a whole, but I think that kind of project, not just because he's a fun guy and that's sort of his brand, right? Like pop culture fun, but that sort of project probably at least changes the pace a little bit for you on the back end, just something a little bit different than the ordinary speaking engagement.
Yeah. When I had gotten to CAA originally, it was a very narrow focus of what I was doing. Over my time there, I was doing everything from endorsement deals, live touring like AC Squared. I had actually been taking on all of the Comic-Con business.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of other ancillary businesses. And, because of my background, I used to run celebrity golf tournaments. I represented Olympians. So I had knowledge in a lot of these spaces. That was one of the things that I really enjoyed because you got to do different things.
Yeah.
But the speaking was always my focus. So no matter what I was doing, I was always really making sure that the speaking business wasn't suffering by it. But in fact, it was something where we found all of these other opportunities led to more business, either, for Andy from the tour, that led to more business speaking. More audiences saw him. They saw him in a different light. They saw him as a moderator. They saw him as a host. They saw him, interviewing or being on stage with Anderson, right? It's just a different perspective. Same thing, the Comic-Con business.
Yeah.
We turned that into a lot of deals for clients that we were working in the Comic-Con front on the speaking front. Conversely, we've had conversations of bringing speakers to Comic-Cons. So all these different areas give you a different perspective, and they kind of allow you to not only have, every day was very different, but provide opportunity to kind of create more opportunity off the back of it.
Yeah, that's a really good example of, say, we've got one thing already going on, but then how can we bring in a different perspective, something new we can do with the other side of the business? That's really cool.
And learning how, an arena is treating a Comic-Con versus how an arena is treating a live, variety show, if you will, versus a speaker.
Yeah.
There's all these different things that knowledge certainly comes in handy every once in a while.
Definitely. Okay, so you've got all these clients at CAA, and not everyone is Andy Cohen. But then here comes Gary Vaynerchuk. Tell me what that was like. How did he end up standing out to you as one of your clients?
So when I was a young agent and Gary was already a client at CAA, I needed to learn all these clients, right? It was 2009. I can't sit here and tell you that I walked in the door and was like, oh man, Gary Vaynerchuk? I
Yeah.
had no idea who the guy
Yeah.
was.
Well, 2009 was really early, even still for his
Absolutely.
brand. I mean, he had some great things going on at that point, but
But there were a lot of clients that are similar like that. I have this conversation a lot with people who are outside the speaking world, and they're like, who do you represent? Who are these speakers? And it's like, I've never heard of that person. Yeah, I can list you some of the biggest speakers in the world are not household names
Right.
because they're still great speakers and there's a value. They work in that space. Just like how Andy Cohen may not mean anything to certain people.
Right.
Will Smith is a known entity, but there are people who don't know who Will Smith is if they don't watch movies. So there's different people that resonate with others in different worlds. I needed to learn more about the clients of CAA, so I was voraciously reading every book from every client. I'm doing that today, and I'm reading every book I can get my hand on, because whether or not that proves itself amazingly influential in what you're doing today, I think over time it helps the sales process, and I think that you need to have that information in the back of your head to better understand your clients, better understand where they can help people, how they can impact audiences, who they make sense to speak to. And so I had read Crush It. It didn't get me out into social media and put podcasting and vlogging instantly, but I got to understand who Gary was and why he was someone to kind of keep an eye on. And then when Thank You Economy came out, that really kind of moved things forward. So I'd already done some deals for him, but Thank You Economy really kind of moved his trajectory up. And
so do you think that book was directly tied to his speaking business improving?
I think that book had a lot to do with it. I can't say, especially with someone like Gary who has his hands in so many different things, it's any one thing, but it was a catalyst. I think it made him a thought leader in the customer service space at a time where customer service was very important. And I noticed that his business was going up, and it wasn't all me. I can't take full credit for that either. But I think that it allowed us to understand who he was as agents, and I kind of honed in on him a little bit. I saw this and I was like, this guy's not going away. Like there's a lot here. It's just fascinating. Like everything he says, today, nowadays, he still tells me he's never going to be wrong. He's been wrong plenty of times, but it's been fun to watch because so many things that he's predicted have come true. And I think he sees things through a certain light that is very beneficial. And I've tried to understand why he thinks of certain things. And so reading his books and understanding who he was, the more I worked with him, the more I got to know him. I would go see every speech I could of his, with just like every other client. But with Gary, things resonated with me. And I just saw, he's going places. And we got together and we got along very well. We have very similar views on customer service, on the sales mentality, on the idea of hustle. Now, I'm not working 6 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. like he is every single day. I certainly need my time off.
Yeah.
But he does motivate you to try to be the best person you can, whatever that is. Everyone has their different reasons for doing different things. I think he does a great job of it for himself, and everyone has to find that kind of balance for themselves. But we do get along, and I think we see eye to eye in so many different things that we've always got along from, the first time we actually met, which was probably after 4 or 5 bookings of him.
All of this is happening. You're getting to know him better, which is probably helping you a little bit on like the sales side of how we're going to package Gary, which is giving him a little bit of an edge because you're starting to get him even better than maybe even any of your other clients. But
Sure.
I'm sure you did this for a lot of other clients as well. But his price is continuing to go up, and in a great way for everybody. He's got a question like, okay, now we're getting to a point where this is so much money that CAA is really, really taking a lot of money, right? I mean, I know Gary and how he thinks about money.
I'm a little biased. I think every agent who's making a commission deserves that commission and works hard for it.
Absolutely. No, all day long. But I think that's clearly why we've gotten to this point with VaynerSpeakers,
Well,
right? Was that not a motivation?
I'm sure it was a motivation for Gary, but I think a lot of it still has to do with what could be done and done differently. I think there's a larger opportunity. Gary had taken some of his business to another agency outside of speaking. I think that had something to do with it. And I can't speak to those other businesses because I didn't touch on those other businesses. But I think Gary and I saw eye to eye on so many different things that we saw an opportunity to do things bigger, differently, more creative, be innovative with the way we're doing things, and be more successful in doing them. And being close to Gary and 20 feet away from him every day and, having him as a mentor is not something I don't mind.
No,
it's certainly, it makes it fantastic, and it allows us the opportunity to do these things that we set out to do.
So then let's talk about that. If that's really what the goal is here, which I absolutely believe, and I wouldn't have wanted to work with you guys if otherwise, how do you see an opportunity in changing this industry, making it better?
Well, it sounds silly to say this, but there's not a whole lot that needs to be done. right? The industry has been around for maybe 40 to 50 years at most, the speaking world. Not a whole lot's changed from an industry perspective. The events have grown. The people who are speaking are different. The money has changed tremendously. And a lot of things have varied, but the industry itself hasn't really adjusted to the marketplace. Nowadays, a lot of people who are running events are not event planners. And I don't think that they are necessarily being seen or treated the same way. But I do think that simple things like just, maintaining the speed of responses and staying in touch with customers and being being high touch on customer service, those are things that I think Gary's always done in his career. I think I've always done in my career, whether Gary's affected that directly or not. I think it's something where I think to be the best salesperson, to be the best helpful agent for both a client as well as a buyer, I do think that it's important to be responsive. And so little things like that I think a lot of the larger agencies are leaving behind because they get bogged down with a lot of the other things.
Yeah.
Now, there's certainly the Jerry Maguire to all of this, right? It sounds great. Is it sustainable? Can you really make money if then all of a sudden you become one of the big guys because you're doing things so well?
Sure.
So it's balancing all of that. It's making sure that you scale properly. And I think that's going to be the most important thing. We'll be great. I have the utmost confidence that we'll be a very successful group very early on. We already have been successful. But I do think that scalability is the most important factor. If we can make what we're doing now and take it to the next couple phases as we grow, that's going to really show whether or not we've been successful, because it's very easy to just become one of the big guys and do things, the wrong way and treat customers poorly. But the idea is to really do things the right way and allow that to be why we're growing.
Very cool. So I know you're taking this launch very seriously. I mean, I'm not sure what date this is going out, and I don't know if we're after launch at this point, but how particular are you being with your initial lineup? Like, I'm not trying to dirt off my own shoulders here. I just mean, it sounds like you're not picking very many people. Like, this isn't like the fastest, biggest situation. You really want to make sure you're taking care of your clients and who will be their clients. So what's this thread of who you're choosing to work with right now?
We're being very deliberate with what we're doing. We want to make sure that whoever we're bringing in are people we believe in, people that we think we can be successful for. I think that's the most important part.
Yeah.
We want to be able to go beyond what people hope for by having us represent them. I've spoken to hundreds of people at this point who want to be represented. Not everyone needs an agent, and I think that that's an important factor to think about. A lot of people think they need an agent, or an agent is going to mean bags of riches, and that's just not the truth. I think an agent can be very beneficial for certain people in certain parts of their careers, and so we're being very deliberate to build a roster of complementary speakers who work within similar places but are not duplicative of one another, right? So we're going to be representing people up and down the cost standpoint, a variety of price points. We're going to be working with people in different topics, working with people who will appeal to different audiences, but we're focused on the business community. We want people who will have a general impact on a general business audience and be able to customize the talk so that they are delivering something specific to the audience. We're looking for people, preferably who have had, brand experience building their own personal brand, building a corporate brand. And I think that that's something valuable that resonates with any audience. An entrepreneur nowadays is looking to build themselves up, is looking to build their business.
Right.
And so the folks we're working with are going to be able to give some sort of personal story as well as professional story about what they've done and why they were successful. And hopefully audiences, and I always say that two people sitting in an audience are going to get completely different messages, but hopefully these audiences will be able to pull something out of these messages from our clients that help them in one way or another. So it's not like we're trying to target a particular type of speaker, but people who will have a message that helps people.
Love that. So I just want to make sure that that you clearly are a very big deal. If you're not just because Gary believes in you, but what you're taking on and the people that you're working with, and not just me. I mean, like, I've seen your lineup. I don't know what everybody knows at this point, but it's very impressive. And so it must be hard work every single day. And I want to hear more about what your work ethic in life is like as Zach, the CEO of VaynerSpeakers. So
That's still
talk
very
to
weird
me.
to me.
Yeah. Love your VaynerMedia office, by the way.
It's great. I love it around here.
Building
The
is
energy
very
is
grand,
phenomenal.
if you don't know, in New York City. Okay, so what's your morning routine like?
I'm up at 6. I have a cup of coffee and I answer emails. I'm at the gym and then have some breakfast and come to the office. And then I'm usually here until, I try not to do lunch meetings or things like that. I try to stay in the office for the full day if I can, because that's going to maximize my time in New York City. Even if it's an hour lunch, that's a 2.5 hour experience.
Commuting, yeah.
So I try to avoid that, and then I'm here, and then if I have meetings or things I need to take, I usually make them drink so I can do it after work. Otherwise, I'm in the office pretty late.
You did that with me last time. There you
Exactly.
go. That's all part of the secret. Great. And so what's your workout like? Do you do anything specific in terms of your workout regimen, or you just kind of go and...
No, I am on a cycle. I'm not in as good a shape as I probably want to be, just because usually those late night drinks can lead into not working out the next day.
You work out so you can have your next drink with your next client, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. You're a voracious reader. Because
Yes.
you have to be. But anything you've picked up in the last maybe few months that really stood out to you that you recommend?
So I used
Other than
to try
Vlog
and
Like a
read.
Boss
Well, I finished that book and enjoyed all of it.
Thank you.
I think it's something where it helps that I like nonfiction. I've read very few fiction
that does
books.
probably help your job a lot.
Yeah. And it's terrible, but there's very few novels I read. And as a kid, I would read a lot of novels. Now I read nonfiction, and it helps because most of my clients are writing nonfiction. And so I try to read as many books as I can. I used to read, one book for me, one book for a client, and now it's pretty much all books for clients, but I don't mind that.
Sure.
I wouldn't be working with these people that I'm working with if I didn't enjoy their work.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier.
Yeah.
But what I find is you don't know, and I always say about sales, you don't know what's going to sell someone. And it's usually not a secret. It's just something people don't know yet. So when I read your book, there are so many little nuggets that I may not even know I absorbed, but in conversations with a customer, I'd be like, oh, wait, let me tell you about this.
Yeah.
This is why you should be thinking about Amy. And it may not be something that you or I would know to discuss, but just comes out. So that's why I read these books. And I think it's important because if you don't know your clients, I've gotten lucky plenty of times before where I've sold someone, I didn't know who they were, I didn't know their work, I didn't know why they made sense. But the reality is that if you're going to be successful for someone, you need to know who they are.
Yeah.
And the easiest way to do that is just consume their content, whether it's vlogs, blogs, podcasts, or reading books. Like when I'm at the gym, I'm listening to podcasts. So I'm trying to do double duty there.
Right.
So I think it's a great opportunity nowadays because there is so much content to consume, but it also becomes tough to kind of sift through it all. So pros and cons, but that's why there's nothing like just putting on a record and listening to or reading a book, and having that be both beneficial for you personally, because a lot of the things everyone talks about is usually, well, not self-help, still good knowledge to have, but also helping in the sales process of when I go back to work the next day.
Absolutely. They spent all their time trying to refine and become an expert in whatever that thing probably is that you're reading about. I just think this is such a good testament to the fact that there is so much content out there and everyone's aware of this, but still, so many people want the fast, the quick, and they don't do just some basic homework.
Yeah.
Even if you're just going out and applying for a job, maybe finding out a funny tweet that the guy that's interviewing, you had said, and maybe you can bring that up and just show that you did your due diligence. You're doing massive due diligence, and you could easily just get on the phone with customers if you wanted to. I don't know if I advise it, and just say look, Amy has almost 300,000 YouTube subscribers. What else do you need to know? But you're not doing that. You're coming at it from a very researched place, which is great for you because you look like you know what you're talking about, and also you're selling your clients better. But so many people wouldn't even think to do a little bit of homework like that with as much information as there is out there.
Well, I also like being on the phone with people because you have to get to know the customer and understand what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Oftentimes they come to me and if we have an event next year, we need a speaker. It's that is fantastic. I don't know how I can help you unless we know more about it.
Right.
And the more I can understand about the event, the better I can help. And it's something where there's oftentimes somebody will come out to me and they'll want a particular client for an event who is just not right for the event. And they just don't understand why their boss has said, go find information on this person. So I do think it's important to listen. I think the internet provides a great opportunity to understand more about the company, more about their event. And I do try to do as much education as possible for myself to understand each event and how I can help. So I do think that's really important.
Yeah. This must be a little bit stressful, though. Is this job a little stressful?
Sure.
Yeah. How do you deal with stress? Anything specifically? Like, do you have like a mindset thing that you do or a writing practice or anything like that?
I have no good.
Just go out and have
if you
a
have any
drink after
ideas,
work?
I'm listening. Brown liquor usually helps. But no, I mean, it's, I think also because I've been doing this for a while, I've gone through and seen a lot of stresses. I used to run events. And so when I was doing that was extremely stressful, which is why I no longer run events. But I do have an appreciation for people who do that. So being on the other side of this. So you've seen a lot.
So when something happens, you're like, okay, this isn't.
And it's, something I always tell young people when I'm working with them, this never happens. This is the first I've seen this, but you always have to be prepared for the next thing. But no day surprises you. And inevitably, there's still things that happen that I'm like, how did this happen? How have I never seen this happen before?
Yeah.
But you just have to kind of roll with it. And I think you have to compartmentalize and move on. I think you can't invest too much of yourself in every deal and every customer and every client. I think you have to find that balance. And I got a lot better about it probably 5 years or so ago. I think I kind of figured that personal balance out. But everyone, it takes different time. And I think everyone is a different person and needs to figure out what works for them. But you need to know priority of what's really important in the grand scheme of things and how can I help, or does someone just need someone to yell at? Like, I'm here, just yell at me. I think everyone has other needs. So I don't have any secret or cure-all for stress. I think we all deal with it in different ways.
Absolutely.
Working out helps in the morning, clears my head. And then, I walk to work. It's the only time I'm not looking at my phone. And then I just attack the day. And the next thing you know, you're doing it all over again.
So before I let you go, I have a couple more questions.
Of course.
But I just want to say I'm so excited for you because I think VaynerSpeakers is going to really shake up the industry. And I am so excited to see such an awesome person like you at the helm. I think it's fantastic. I also get to kind of like reap a little bit of the benefit. I'm very excited to be working with you guys. I just think you guys have a fresh perspective on this. And I've been speaking for not that many years, and I'm sure there's going to be people within the agency that have been speaking for a lot longer than me. But for somebody who has been speaking as much as possible, really understands the importance of going out for free, doing as much as possible, refining my craft, getting better, fixing the keynote, making it better. I've seen so much in this world, and I'm really just hoping for so much more. So I'm excited to have a partner in that. And again,
that's really the fun part for me. And Gary and I talked a lot about this as we were planning to do this. It's great to just do deals all the time, right? And do a deal for Gary, do a deal for you, whatever. Like, that's kind of, people look at it as just, turning deals over. I don't like the transactional nature of it. I like the idea of building businesses. And that was something we did at CAA. It was, the housewives we worked with. We weren't working with just any housewives. We were working with housewives who had businesses to build. And so I look at this as building a speaking business. And so the fun part for me is we're not started from scratch. You've been out there doing speaking engagements. But the idea is that I think there's so much more you can be doing. And if I can be a part of that, if I can help enhance what you've done, to me, that is like the most fulfilling thing possible. So maybe that's my why. But I think that, someone like yourself who has so much to say and has worked so hard to get there, to me, that's the best part, because audiences deserve to hear from you and you deserve to be on stage. Now, there are a lot of bad speakers on stage that some people love, and that's fine. Not going to mention any names, but I think the ability to kind of grow a career, use speaking as a platform to build other businesses, other parts of your world is fascinating to me. So maybe that's what stresses me out the most, is I just want to be successful for everyone. Like, I'm not working with people I don't believe in, and I think I want to be as successful as I can for these people. And, that'll mean success for myself, but ultimately, everyone else reaps the benefits, which is what's going to be so much fun about this.
That's a relatable stress. I love that. I love that. Okay, before my last question, where can everybody catch up with you online? On Twitter, Instagram, anywhere? Where do you hang out? Where are you talking about what you're doing?
We are VaynerSpeakers, so we have been keeping fairly quiet, but there will be a lot of announcements soon, so I don't know when this is going live, but our website is just a landing page.
I'll keep everybody posted. Don't worry about that.
It's going to be fun. We're days away from launching everything.
Cool.
And it's going to be something where We're so excited about it. I think everything looks great. I'm so excited about releasing everything. There's clearly been a lot of people clamoring for this information, which is great. I love it because people want to know. And I'm excited to share all of that. I'm just simply at Zach Nadler on Instagram. So it's not the most clever, but you can find me. And we're at VaynerSpeakers across all boards. So, by all means, come talk to us. We're there listening. And cool. VaynerSpeakers.com.
Great. My last question. What does it mean to you to go after the life that you want?
Well, it's fascinating because in my position, the life I want is making sure everyone else has the life they want. But I've also, at this point, I'm very happy. I've had a great career. I'm doing something I love with people I like to work with. I'm in the best city in the world, Columbus. No harm to Columbus there.
That's all right. We can argue that another time.
But everything is great. I love where I'm at. I think, I look at it as everything is gravy. Let's build businesses. Let's, be successful together. And I think that's going to be the most fun part.
Zach Nadler, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's catch some details here. First and foremost, in order to do great work, you need to do some homework. Go a little bit above and beyond. Do what other people won't do. Those who do the things others won't do are the ones who succeed. They're the ones that stick around. They're the ones that ultimately get to their goal because they just never gave up. So do the thing that other people mostly won't, and do a little bit of homework because it helps you stand out, whether you're selling like Zach is or just trying to get that next perfect position for you. Make it happen. Next, double duty. Anytime you can make the most out of a time period that's not just one thing, but something else, then make it happen. Now, multitasking isn't a real thing, but if you can go to the gym and listen to podcasts so that you're bettering yourself while you are there, that's a great idea. Tony Robbins talks about something called net time, no extra time. And so this is really big. How can you be cooking dinner, but also educating yourself? Or when you're at the gym, continue to build on ideas and your creativity. So I love that Zach talked about this, and I hope you'll do it as well. Another detail is for you to check out VaynerSpeakers.com if you are in the market for a speaker, or if you are a speaker and would hope to potentially work with them at some point, then you will want to find out more details at their website. Everything, of course, will be linked in the show notes. That's at detailspodcast.com. Go check it out. I have to say again, I'm so honored to be able to not only share this chat with you, but to be a part of this new family, this new venture. And so it's definitely going to be a really interesting year, to say the least. And I'm so excited that you're going to be along for the ride with me. Hey, do you love getting advice straight to your earbuds? Would you like some simple steps for living your best life every day? Then I would love for you to go and get my free audio training with the 7 essential details for going after the life that you want. To receive this audiogram, subscribe to the podcast, take a screenshot to show you're subscribed. You're going to email that screenshot to hello@detailspodcast.com with audiogram please in the subject line, and we will get it right over to you. All those details will be in the show notes as well, just in case you forget one of the steps. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. If you would like to discover more actionable details, head over to AMYTV by typing the URL in your browser, youtube.com/AMYTV, or search for Amy Landino in your YouTube app. Subscribe for good vibes, kiss the ones you love, and remember, go after the life that you want. Cheers.